Hey everybody, Tom here with Hidden Beats, and today we're talking with Darren from Black Creek Rain. How are you doing?
Good, good, good. What's up, everybody over Hidden Beats? Pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me.
We're here today to talk about you, about your music, and about what you do in the world. But for those who are new, can you give a little intro about yourself?
So, Black Creek Rain has taken many forms over the years, but most recently, we've really honed in on being somewhere in between reggae and rock. So, we've been around for a little while now. We've been around since about 2016, but recently, we really started to get back into it, releasing songs. We're going to start going back on the road in May, and that's what it is. So, if you're a fan of reggae, rock, maybe something in between, a little bit more alternative, Black Creek Rain is for you.
Nice, it's good to hear. So, I guess the first question is how did you get started with music?
I was like every other kid probably who was like dragged kicking and screaming to piano lessons all those years ago.
Hmm.
So you're younger, you're a kid, you're 8, 9 years old. Your parents are like, okay, what can we do with him? And so they took me to piano, and like everybody else, I hated it at first. I'm like, this is dumb. I don't understand it. I had some broken tumble down old Casio keyboard. Like it was just not a good start to my career, frankly.
Hmm.
And then when I was older, they still decided that music was really important, of which it obviously very much is. But I switched teachers just to kind of increase the challenge, just to kind of maybe change of scenery might help. And I was introduced to this Canadian smooth jazz teacher. His name is Stan Foman. And he just changed the game for me. Pretty much the first class, I'll never forget. We were just starting and it was December. And so we were doing Christmas carols just out of the book. And he's like, man, this is simple. This is dumb. Let me show you what you can really do.
Okay,
And just started improvising over like something base, probably something like Jingle Bells, and just lifted this basic melody off the page and changed it. Oh my goodness. Just it was this lush harmony. It was like time signature changes. It was like prog rock on a piano, frankly.
nice.
And just that I didn't even know that you could do that musically. I was like 13 years old at this point. I'm like, this is brilliant. This is it. This is music for me. I want to do this.
Hmm.
Ever since that day, I'm like, this is music for me, and I have to do it. And I've been trying to pursue that ever since.
That sounds kind of awesome, just to have that inspiration, I guess, from someone unexpected at the time.
I went in with no expectations. I thought just changing piano teachers, whatever. It's a new face. It's a new kind of. This is not going to make a huge difference. And boy, was I wrong. Right.
Hmm.
So, oh,
So now we're into, trying to build this reggae rock kind of fluid genre. So who inspires, like, where do you get inspiration for the sound for Black Creek Rain now?
it's a good question because, as I had stated earlier, we have bounced around between many different forms and many different genres. We started off being this like pop, blues, rock sort of thing. And then we tried, even on our Spotify, there's a couple of acoustic songs. Reggae was always like a part of the puzzle, and we always dabbled and did some reggae, but we never really solidified that until recently. And so in terms of inspiration, most recently, and the other co-founder of the band is going to love this answer, but Rage Against the Machine has done so much for how we approach a very simple sound. Because sonically, Rage Against the Machine, it's like guitar, bass, drums, voice. Live, that's pretty much it. They might
Hmm.
have like a backing guitarist, like just kind of playing along with Tom Morello, but for the most part, that's like it. But they do so much with so few instruments. And that's one thing we've really been trying to focus in and zone in on, because their verses are like very riff based. And then the choruses, they just crank on some gain or some distortion. And it's a very similar riff, but all of a sudden it's like 60 decibels louder despite nothing changing on stage. And we're like, wow, something's here. And this has really inspired us recently to really zone in on what we're doing on stage and even in studio. And even just from like a basic reggae standpoint, you can't have reggae without Bob Marley, obviously,
Yeah.
right? And there's so much more rock and hard driven elements in his live shows than people might think. People might think reggae music is it's a bunch of steel pans, it's a guitar skank, it's an organ, and that's that. But if you were to really go back and look at some of his live stuff, especially from like the Europe shows he did in like 1977, we'll say, there's a
Hmm.
hard rock guitar solos and this and that and power chords and the whole nine yards. And so it's a lot heavier than you might expect. And that's really been inspiring our sound too, taking the heavier, harder reggae elements and putting them in that sort of hard rock foundational Rage Against the Machine protesty cry, because reggae has always been protest music, but
Yeah.
rock also has been protest music too. Punk is a form of protest, always has been, always was. Metal, that scream, that relentless, just letting that guttural roll out, has always been a form of protest to just the status quo of what pop music is, right? So you take these protesty genres and you do the best you can to fuse them together, and hopefully we're coming up with something people haven't heard before or haven't heard in quite some time.
Well, I was listening to the music beforehand, and I went back and forth in between different songs, but you can definitely feel the new vibe, I guess you're looking for on the recent one, Wall Street, that has that hard feeling, but it also has that kind of reggae undertone, and it has the mix of everything. So it's a nice combination of the sounds for sure.
That's really what we were going for. We didn't want to be, we wanted to take the best of rock, which the power chords, the solo, and all that foundational rock elements, and we wanted to take the best of reggae too. There's that kind of bouncy rhythmic organ. We've
Mhm.
got Logan, the other singer in the band, is from Trinidad and Tobago. He's from the Caribbean, and so he hits with that very Caribbean spit in the verse, and so you really have, in my opinion, a true fusion of both rock and reggae, which are two genres you might not initially expect to go together, but when you, I hope, do it the way we do, it's something different.
Yeah, like it fits. It works get good together. So I think it's the right track from what I'm seeing anyways.
Amazing. Yeah, I love to hear that.
Mhm.
It's my favorite comment, especially most recently, now that really it just came out 2 weeks ago, is that people are like, I never thought that these are two genres that could fit like this. I never thought
Mhm.
you could have taken this and made that, and it actually works.
Yeah, it's something that it's unexpected and then goes, "Wow, okay, you know what?" Yeah. So speaking of the new track, Wall Street, what's the story behind that and like the process involved in putting that together?
So point blank period, this took forever. I'm not even going to exaggerate. This took forever to do because, as you've heard, there's congressional testimony that we lifted off of various sources to put
Mhm.
in the song. There is a huge, the verse and the chorus is kind of one section that we drop things for the bridge after the solo. And just to get that, because we took reggae rock and then we stopped for the bridge. And now it's this ethereal, drifting, floating sort of sound. And that took forever to get. And all this, the co-founder of the band, Lex and I co-founded the band. Shout out Big Lex. He's never sung on a track before, ever. In
Okay.
like the 8 years we've been here, he's never sung on a track before. This is the first time he's ever been vocally involved. And so even to get that working with my voice, working with Logan's voice, that took forever. So the process was just throw everything but the kitchen sink in studio. Let's listen and let's take out what simply does not belong there.
Mhm.
And that is, if you're going to do it right, it's just the lengthiest process in history. Because I would love, I love huge, I came from a music educational background, symphonies and orchestras and all that. I love 208 layers at the same time. I'm like, yes,
Mhm.
I need all of this.
Mhm. Yeah.
But you don't really. You don't really, right? You can take out some of the elements, and the true construction of this track, we needed to separate what had absolutely had to be in this track and what really didn't have to be in this track.
Mhm.
And week after week, month after month, that is the conversation that we had, and we finally settled on something, and we put it out there. Um, but the inspiration kind of lyrically came from the financial climate of today.
Mhm.
Everything's getting more expensive. The rich seem to be getting richer, and the poor seem to be getting poorer. Right?
Yeah.
It seems like while the prices of everything is going up, nobody's wages is going up. Funny how that works, right?
Mhm.
And so a lot of people are really angry about that. A lot of people look around at this tax and that tax and this fee and that fee, and is it really a better idea to own your own home versus renting? There's property tax here, there's maintenance fees if you're in a condo, there's so on and so forth. And people are mad about it.
Yeah.
People are real mad about it. And we tried our best to channel that anger, that frustration, that rage, that confusion that people are feeling with the market into a song quite literally about today's financial climate and market.
Yeah, it's definitely something that's very prevalent out there today. Like I look at I can go spend $150 a week on groceries and come back with what seems like nothing. It seems like not enough to do anything, and you just wonder, like, where's everything going, and how are we surviving at this point?
It's so funny you say that, because even one of the biggest things that Canada has that we love to boast about is we've got free healthcare. Look
Hmm.
at us, everybody. We've got free healthcare. But what does that actually mean? Does that mean now I'm waiting 6 months to see a specialist and my problem's getting worse? Because frankly, at that point, I'd rather pay a little bit, see this person next week, and be done with it.
Hmm.
Right. So we can boast and brag all we want in Canada. Times are tough out here. Times are real tough out here. And that's one of the facets we wanted to talk about in this song. I'm 32 right now. I'll be 33 next month. And all the guys in the band are in and around that age. We got a couple of guys older, a couple of guys younger, but
Hmm.
everybody, nobody knows everybody's one or two paychecks away from we're out on the street here.
Yeah, I'm
Right.
right in that same boat, 100%.
And people are sick, they've got to go to work. Right, like people are ill, they've got to go to work. Something doesn't feel quite right, like maybe my finger is dislocated, maybe whatever the case is, I've got to go to work, I've got bills to pay.
Hmm.
Right, and you're mad about that, you're sad about that, you're frustrated. This is the first world, supposedly. How did we let it get this bad?
And we have the worst. So, for instance, shipping rates and stuff like that. Canada has the worst shipping rates in all first world countries. Like, to actually ship something across places, it's insanity. Just trying to, like, even send someone something, and the prices are ridiculous.
I can believe that. We have the worst cell phone plans too.
Well, they're
Our
actually
cell
getting
plans are
better now, which is I have to admit that I've seen some changes in some of that stuff. Like, I just redid cell phones for myself and my wife, and surprisingly, it was drastically different.
as opposed to a few years ago when it was like $80 for like the most basic plan out there, and you're like, you've got to be kidding. Like, how does
Hmm.
that even make sense, right?
Well, when I went into, like, I'm with Rogers, I went in and said I'd like to, upgrade my phone and that, and they looked, they're like, "Oh wow, how are you on this plan? This is insane."
One of
But
those
that
old
just says a
grandfather
lot.
plans. Yeah,
Yeah.
I hear that. It's a disaster, and that's really what we wanted to talk about. I love investing in the stock market, and it's kind of like gambling, but like not really, because
Hmm.
and to see banks and to see financial institutions and hedge funds and whatever else conglomerate you want to think of control, quite literally control the market and just cheat in every possible way, you're mad as an individual investor.
Hmm.
And we did an interview with Buzz Music from Los Angeles just the other day, talking specifically about that being one of the core inspirations for Wall Street, as the song is quite literally called Wall Street. Lex is an excellent financial mind for me personally, and he's always happy to give advice and tips and whatnot. And he breaks down exactly how corrupt and how deep seated the corruption and the stink goes, and it's enough to blow anybody's mind. And while we are musicians and while we're artists, it's our job to call attention to that. It's our
Hmm.
job to, if we feel a type of way about a situation like that, it's our job to call it out and to use whatever vehicle in terms of genre or instrument to tell that story.
Yeah, for sure. And that's great to see that people are using their platforms for things like that.
I hear
So,
that. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm curious now. We talked about how Black Creek Rain's gone over some different genres and tried different things. I went back to your Spotify releases, and we have, in 2019 you have Culture Shock. In 2020 there's The Rain. How do you think your music has evolved over the time going through these genres into, like, the release of Wall Street?
I have always been of the mindset that genre is pretty fluid.
Hmm.
Think of your favorite artist. Very rarely will they do literally just one genre. Very, very rarely. I am a huge fan of John Mayer. John Mayer is blues. John Mayer is a little bit of rock. He's kind of in a pop song structure. He did kind of some country stuff for a while. He's a little bit all over the place, right?
Hmm.
But I love him for that, because every song, despite him weaving through genre, when I hear a John Mayer song, I'm like, that's a John Mayer song. I know it. His style, his obvious guitar mastery, like what I've always wanted to weave in and out of genre with my own flair to it. I love just about everything. I love rock music. I love reggae music. I love funk. I love blues. I like country music too. Why the hell not? There's some damn good country artists out there. Chris Stapleton
Hmm.
is a huge favorite of mine, right?
Yeah.
What a voice, right? What a voice he's got. And just I never wanted to choose. I never wanted to be, we're Black Ukraine, we're rock. Here's 10 rock songs back to back to back. Deal with it. I might even get bored just being on stage playing that, right?
Mhm.
So Culture Shock was it was the first song I ever wrote, actually.
Okay.
That's the re-recorded, remastered version of that. The original versions on our SoundCloud, and that's way back from like 2013, 2014. Um, and that's like reggae pop ish, and then the rain is more just straight up like blues rock, and so these are genres that we've always played with, and these are genres that we've always had as a part of our identity, but we've always gone in kind of phases and kind of cycles as to kind of what we want to sound like. 2021 we released You and I, which is like a dance pop song. We released Runaway, which is like a reggae pop song. Like we're a little all over the place, and while that was our biggest strength and also our biggest weakness, because a lot of people, you'd come to a Black Week Rain show and you wouldn't necessarily know what to expect.
Mhm.
Are they going to do their reggae songs tonight? Are they going to do their rock songs tonight? Is this going to be one of those dance sessions? Like, I don't know. And so as much as I didn't necessarily want to, I realized the strength in, look, let's pick like two or three genres. This is it. That's that. I
Yeah.
love everything. I get everything. I just don't think Black Week Rain is going to put out a country album anytime soon.
I mean, it makes sense because in the long run, you are trying to build an audience that's loyal and everything. So diversifying too much isn't always the easiest thing to do.
No, maybe later on, when we're raking in multi-millions of dollars, whenever that will be, maybe
Yeah.
then we'll have the freedom to do whatever the hell we want. But until then, we've got to, if we're reggae rock, we've got to be reggae rock, stick to that, and that's that. And so for the rest of the year, that's what you're going to see. You're going to see either we're going to use reggae rock as a spectrum, because there's going to be a song or two that we release that's a little bit more reggae than rock, and then
Mhm.
some songs we release that are a little bit more rock than reggae, but it's all going to fit and flow together because at least it's from the same environment.
Yeah, that makes sense, and I think that'll probably fit the most with your audience in general.
I would hope so, because we I know I'm a guy, and I know that there's going to be more people out there like me. I like both reggae and rock. So why do I necessarily have to choose? At least with us. And this is not a brand new fusion. Like I'm saying, guys like Bob Marley have been doing this since the 70s. So
Mhm.
we just need to find those fans, connect with those fans, say, hey, this is a genre that we understand, we get, that we like. And if this is a niche thing, like jump aboard. At least maybe we have the sound that you're looking for.
Yeah, I think it'll fit for sure. Now, outside of music, what do you do, keep yourself grounded, get some hobbies just to get away from the distraction of music entirely?
I am quite literally in City Hall right now.
Okay.
I work for the city of Toronto. So that helps. It's a hybrid gig, which is great. I'm
Hmm.
at home 3 days a week, so I get to focus a lot of my effort and energy on the music because I do take it seriously. But given the climate, as I was speaking about earlier, finances, especially to finance music, which is an expensive thing to do,
Mhm.
requires at least a little bit of a day job. That's where this comes in.
That's the same
But
I'm doing too, actually, is the day job.
it's and it can be frustrating because you hear, and they're not wrong, but it's just the hardest thing in the world to do. You hear stories of guys like Ed Sheeran like sleeping on people's couches and just booking themselves as many shows as they could, and a hoarse voice and all. They're out there and they're doing it, and he deserves all of the success he has, no doubt. But
Mhm.
it's not even a fear thing, because if I had to, I, Lex and I had gone to Nashville and Los Angeles and whatnot a few times, and we had lived that sort of lifestyle. And it's not that if we didn't want to, we couldn't. But the older you get, I'm married now. I have other responsibilities. My wife is ultra supportive of this, and she could get herself a remote job and just go across the country with me. I've set myself up in a really good way, but it's just, when am I going to pull the trigger on that? And even if I do, what's the guarantee?
Yeah.
Right? Because if I leave the city of Toronto, yeah, there are ways and avenues I could come back here, but boy, oh boy, it'd be tough.
Mhm.
Right? So I never want to leave until things are at least partially solidified. You know what I mean?
Oh, I'm actually, like, right in the same boat, so I'm married, I have a daughter and everything, so I got the responsibilities too, and I work for the government, so I'm in the same boat where I could technically be remote, but then how do you make that jump, or how do you do that whole process? Because a lot of my stuff is here, like, I'm based in Ottawa, so everything is kinda where I need it
I
to be
see.
here. So moving
Right.
somewhere a route makes it a little bit more difficult. And yeah, I completely understand that sentiment for sure.
And it's funny because there are some people on that you follow on social media, or even people you know, that they don't mean to come off a type of way, but when they say that you don't really give yourself a chance unless you do this full time, they're not wrong.
Hmm.
They're not, because if I'm not spending 40, 50 hours a week on this craft, and I'm spending, say, 20, 25 hours a week on this craft, it's certainly still a lot. But you're putting in a part-time effort for what you hope to be a full-time success. And rarely does that work the way you want it to.
Hmm. Yeah,
Right.
exactly. You got to put in that work to get there. It's that 10,000 hours to be a professional type of thing.
That's what it is. And so at least with the hybrid setup, I'm able to devote more of that time and tip the balance a little bit back in my favor. Because now I'm like a legal administrative assistant. When I was a medical administrative assistant, I had to be in the hospital 5 days a week. And
Yeah.
and and, and you can't do those. I can't help administer patient care, and I can't sit in on diagnostic sessions and this, that, the next, let alone contribute to diagnostic sessions if I'm at home.
Yeah.
Right. So it's at least, and it was tough back because I started working for um one of the long-term care facilities for the city in 2020, right when the pandemic started. And
Mm.
oh my goodness, let me tell you, talk about time I'm never going to get back.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Driving to work and driving back home and masking up and this and this and this, and oh my goodness. And so I'm glad at least now I have the flexibility to focus and take interviews on lunch, and everybody's good and everybody's cool. I have a very supportive team. They know what I'm about. They're cheering me on, and here we are. All the ball is in my court. It's what I do with it now. And I'm
Nice.
pushing.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you, and I totally appreciate the effort that's put into that. So I do have a couple fun questions I like to ask everyone on interviews, and first time interviews are always more interesting for different insights. First one is my favorite question. What's one thing you think should be asked more in an interview that's not asked enough?
So okay, so the first one is what my favorite question is.
Like something that you think that you might not hear enough when you're being interviewed, or if you're watching an interview, you want to know more about said person.
I like to know, and I'm gonna, because that could be super, super broad, but so I'll narrow it down to like musicians. If I'm
Hmm.
watching like a John Mayer interview, I don't necessarily care what type of shoes, despite John being a big sneakerhead and watch guy. I don't care about his watches and I don't care about his shoes. I can hear less about that. I want to hear about his process. I want to hear when John's in the studio, how does he formulate an idea? Slow dancing in a burning room. How did he come up with that? What was the process? Was it one of those things like Paul McCartney where it came to him in a dream? Or was he just, excuse me, was he just out there trying things out? And this is after 100 tries, this is what he zoned in on. That's the type of stuff I want to know.
Hmm. Yeah, because you're more of you're a deeper thought process, it seems like, when you're looking at things. So as a musician, I could imagine finding out some of these kind of things that people you might look up to are thinking about is probably really interesting.
Maroon 5, I have a very love-hate relationship with them because I think after Songs About Jane, it's just never been the same.
Hmm.
Despite Songs About Jane just being a 10 out of 10. And it's frankly like an inspiration for my sound, because you talk about fusion, that was blues, that was rock, that was funk, that was pop, all in one album, but
Yeah.
it all worked, right? And there are some liner notes for one of my favorites on that album, This Love. And it's talking about, should we have an instrumental hook in the pre-chorus? It's like, how many layers of harmony should we have backing me? La 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 la. And I'm like, this is the stuff I want to know. This
Hmm.
is an all-time great album. And if I can dive in and see kind of deconstructed the blueprint of how this all came together, maybe I can take some of these pieces away, use it in my creative process, and discover a whole bunch of different things now.
Yeah. Yeah, those type of things really are nice to broaden your
Yeah.
horizons in that sense too. I like that question. That's good. Now, you're based in Toronto. I'm
Yep.
curious, do you have some favorite food spots you can recommend for people?
Ah, oh damn it, it's closed now, and it just closed a few months ago. But Pat's Homestyle, being of Caribbean origin and descent, I know what good Caribbean food is and what it isn't,
Hmm.
and that was good Caribbean food. Their jerk pork and their curry goat is as authentic and legit as it gets. It's like going back home. It really,
Nice.
really is. As of now, though, what is a place? You know what? It's a simple place, but It's right across from my gym. And after a good workout, I'm a sucker for a burrito.
Okay.
There's this spot right by Keelan Wilson. It's called Get and Go Burrito. It's great. Staff's really friendly, good portion size, always fills me up. It's like 40 grams of protein a shot. Who's going to argue with that?
Hmm.
Right. So that's probably my go to right now.
Nice. I like that. I'm always a sucker for a great burrito. We have a Fat Bastards that's close to us that they always have, really great portions and everything. And you can literally watch them cooking the meat in front of you. So everything's kind of done right there.
Legit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's nice. I like that. Um, on your go-to playlist, what's something people wouldn't expect you listen to?
They might not, with all the like rock and reggae and stuff that I talk about. One of the guys that really changed the game for me in terms of how I approach lyrics or even like emotional output when I'm singing is an acoustic guy named Damian Rice. And he's
Okay.
just, he's, it's even his live shows, it's him and a guitar,
Hmm.
but it's 2,000 people in silence hanging on his every word. And he just has changed the game for me so much in just realizing that sometimes less really is more. Because I was always one of those, especially when I was younger, I was always one of those like just doofuses. Very similarly to like how an Ingve Malmsteen might give an interview when he's very much more is more. You have to be outrageous. Where's the pyrotechnics? Where's the backup dancers? La di da di da.
Hmm.
And I'm like, mate, you don't need all that, right? If you
Yeah.
can connect with people, and it's been drilled into my head so recently that if you can just connect with people on an emotional output, people won't forget how you make them feel,
Hmm.
especially at a concert, right? Because you're not going to go to a Damien Rice concert unless you know his songs, and when you hear them live and they cut in a different way, face to face, than over headphones, man. And that's the type of thing you might not expect to hear on my playlist. Because if you're expecting to hear, yeah, man, Megafa sing reggae, that's like a different thing altogether
Hmm.
versus something that's like very, very like vulnerable and very, very emotional, right?
Yeah, and I know of Damien. I haven't been out to see a show or anything because I haven't had the chance, but I'm definitely interested in checking one out because I've heard really good things for sure.
It's you him being my favorite for sure. I won't be the same if I see him live, but think of whoever your favorite might be. You're just never going to be the same after you either hear what he's about or like you see him live, man. Even John, when I saw John Mayer, like I wasn't the same live because I being and it was just a few years ago, but I will never remember me and my bandmate walking into the show thinking, I'm here for the guitar playing. John is not that great of a singer, let's be honest.
Hmm.
Wrong. Wrong. I
Hmm.
could not have been more wrong. He crushed it vocally. And then I thought to myself, how stupid could I have been to think that a guy as talented, as decorated, and as seasoned as John Mayer wouldn't also be a good singer?
Yeah, exactly.
A guy who's played thousands of shows, who everybody already knows his prowess on guitar. That was unsurprising and as good as you'd expect. But his voice, especially in his older albums, his voice was always kind of lagging behind, I found,
Hmm.
which I don't think is an unfair criticism because if you go back and listen to things like Room for Squares or whatnot, vocally is not exactly the most spectacular thing, but let him do those songs live now. Boy, oh boy, he's going to bowl you over.
Oh yeah, it hits differently. So the one that kind of hits home for me like that is I got the chance to go see Frankie Valli live, and
Well,
80 plus years old. He's not doing what he used to do, but man, his voice still it hits all those notes, and it's just one of those ones that was like, damn, that's the song for me right there.
your favorites are always going to cut. Your favorites are always going to hit, man.
Yeah.
Always, always, always.
I was even at concert Bowling for Soup last night. They're like the pop punk nostalgic
Yeah,
high
yeah, yeah.
school days for
I,
me. And I was like, oh gee, this is so fun. Like, and they still hit every song too.
you know what? When you're out there on the road and you're cutting your teeth and you're playing for this one, playing for that one, it's such a craft to be able to be better live than the recording. It's such
Hmm.
a craft to to have people say these sorts of things a full day after you've seen them. There's an art in and of itself right there.
Yeah, if you can hold that attention from a live show and keep it going, then you've got something right there for sure.
Yeah, you figured it out. You
Hmm.
figured it out at that point.
Yeah. All right. So important question is, what do you hope people take away from Black Black Creek Brains music?
I hope that people, because this whole year, um, the initial title of the EP that is just being dropped single by single this year initially was going to be called Songs at the End of the World. And we want people to feel what we're feeling. Wall Street's an angry, rage filled reggae rock fusion. The next song that should be coming out in May is called King of Nothing. And it is about the relentless pursuit of all this opulence that at the end of the day, what does it actually mean?
Hmm.
If you're a guy like Jeff Bezos or Bill Gates and you've got $150 billion, but you leave the world a worse place than you found it, or a worse place than when you entered, what was even the point?
Yeah.
You can't take that $150 billion with you when you've passed on anyways. So
Yeah,
what
you
is
could
even the
literally give millions of dollars to everyone around the world twice over and still, you know.
if you really wanted to, you could quite literally fix all the problems in the world. Like the top 10 or 15 richest people,
Mhm.
if they really wanted to, could just take all of their net worth. Because I'm smart enough to know that just because he's worth $150 billion doesn't mean he has $150 billion just sitting in the bank.
Yeah, it's not
Obviously,
liquid
right?
by any means.
No. But if he wanted to, he could liquefy some of that, even if he liquefied 10% of that,
Hmm.
and go out and really create change like we've never seen before. But very, very few of those people will actually do it. And
Yeah.
so really, so they've won. They have the high score of money. They have 150, $200 billion. Congratulations. You are the king of nothing.
Yep. That makes sense for sure. And even look at someone like Elon Musk who said if hey, someone bring me a plan and I'll solve world hunger, but I need a plan for it. He just kind of sat there and said, "Hey,
Yeah,
figure it out."
you know what? I actually have to give him credit for that one because he sat there and he said, look, if it will take $6 billion to end world hunger, I'll cash it out now. I'll do it.
Mhm.
Give me a plan. I'll do it. Give me. But you know what happened? Nothing. They were like, shit. He called our bluff, man.
Yep.
Damn it. And nothing. So I'll give Elon credit because I actually think he's like that outrageous that if you gave him a plan, he would have said, "Here's your $6 billion. Go nuts."
Exactly. He's that guy who's like, screw everyone else, watch me do this.
Correct.
Yeah, I
Correct.
love that out of him for sure.
I that I now I that was such a silly interaction on Twitter or X or
Hmm.
whatever because he just right there in front of everybody, he's like, "Do it. What's up? Do it."
Yep.
And what organization was it? Was it World Vision or was it? I can't remember.
It
But
was
they're
one
like,
of those kind of top tier ones that kind of went, yeah, yeah, okay, and then they went, oh, okay, well,
"Oh shit,
yeah,
oh
exactly.
shit."
Yeah, that was
Oh
a
man,
I love that. And I'm not the biggest fan of Elon by any standards. He's a bit of a loose cannon sometimes, but when you
he's out of his mind most days. Let's be honest here.
yeah, but when you come correct like that and be like, okay, step up, and
Yeah, step up.
it's like, okay, good for you, sir. Like I appreciate that.
And now you really see that it's not just these loony billionaires that are the problem. These organizations, these conglomerates, these entities are just as guilty.
Hmm. I mean, we could probably go into hours upon hours of conversations about just different organizations and what they do. That's for sure.
No doubt.
Well, we don't have too much time left because Zoom is going to kick us off. So I think the last question, probably the most important of all of them, is given everything that you've gone through with Black Creek Rain, are you happy?
I am, yeah, I'm very happy. I'm not where I want to be, but I know that I have the power to change that. And I've
Hmm.
got so much support from even entities such as yourself taking the time out of your day to speak to us, or me in this case. But
Yeah.
I've got family, I've got friends, I've got a great community, and I've got a great setup from an employment wise that now it's up to me to do it. And I'm very happy knowing that if I just put the time in, the effort, and the energy in, I'm going to be successful. And
Hmm.
I'm very happy with where life has taken me now. All of the people I've ever met, all of the songs I've ever written or never written, all of the relationships that didn't quite work out the way that we all thought they would. I'm very happy where I am because of all the decisions I've ever made.
Yeah. And happiness is a journey that I think everyone is going to keep on rolling at some speed of their own for sure.
And ironically enough, it's something that you can make a very good argument money just can't buy.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's a perfect way we'll cap off today, and we're probably gonna have to have another one of these just to go over some other fun points for sure.
I am happy to do that.
Yeah, I'm always available, and it was great to get to kind of meet you and understand more about you and how Black Creek Rain exists and what they do in the world for sure.
It was a pleasure to be on this platform.
Is there any final words of wisdom you'd like to leave to people?
When they do eventually go look for our music, it's Black Creek Rain, like REIGN, not Black Creek Rain, RAIN. That's a
Mhm.
whole different conversation for another time.
I'll make sure that we link everything properly, like the websites and stuff
Oh,
like that. Just
oh,
to
amazing. Please and
yeah,
thanks.
yeah, it'll all be in the description, so someone just has to click and go. Well, I think we'll sign off and you can enjoy the rest of your day. And I have to go play dad for a little bit now and see how that's gonna happen.
Amazing. Well, thanks very much once again.
No problem. You enjoy.